Welcome back to Beyond the Box Score. I'm your host, Jacob Gibbs. I'm joined by Ryan Heath. We've got some fun Week 6 matchups to dig into today. We've got some really interesting start-sit matchups to dig into today as well. But Ryan, first, how are you doing? How are you holding up, man?
Doing great, man. Yeah, we're like really into the season. We have decent sample sizes on everything. We can get into the fancy plays. I'm excited. I'm loving it. I think we had an awesome show last week and hoping that we can follow it up with some of these discussions, some of these matchup calls.
Yes, we did. Shout out Ryan. Let's take a little lap. This is just my guy Ryan, really. I don't think I've had any brilliant calls like Mason Taylor. But that was a fun one. Rashid Shaheed. Saw the, bomb down the sideline to Shaheed that we've been waiting on. Spencer Rattler got his first win of the season. That was fun. But I immediately thought of you, Ryan, when I saw the Shaheed. Thought of you and Graham Barton coming on our sleeper show and telling us he was one of your favorite sleepers. And then Ryan did call him out in this show last week. So yeah, we're doing all our homework. We're a little bit sleepy, a little bit loopy this time of year because we've been maybe doing too much homework, but a lot of cool stuff to bring you guys today. So we'll get into all of that. I'm going to start, Ryan, just with a quarterback question. I think it's really easy to overlook the quarterback rankings because it's kind of set it and forget it for me in most leagues. But I actually have one that I need your help with this week. I'm considering starting Caleb Williams over Drake Maye, which feels bad because it's been Drake Maye all day, every day for me since I knew who he was. And he's carried my team this far, but I've got a team that is dealing with some injuries. Bucky Irving, Brock Bowers, Juwan Jennings, got some buys. And I'm thinking maybe I need some more upside from Caleb Williams in the potential shootout against Washington. So talk me through these 2 year 2 guys. How are you looking at those two?
Yeah, so first I'll say I'm a Patriots fan. I'm enjoying Drake Maye. Everything looks amazing.
It's so fun.
It's so much fun. Thank God he's this good. He's not even actually running as much as we expected, but he is just so incredible as a scrambler, as a downfield passer. Like he's top 3 in all of our accuracy, catchable throw metrics, and everything over at Fantasy Points data. Every week I'm just like tweeting out all of his metrics and saying Drake Maye, Drake Maye, Drake Maye as my caption. Yeah, he's great. It's awesome. All that said, I am with you that I think Caleb Williams just this week has more upside. Just because, this game's a lot more likely to shoot out against the Commanders. Williams has also been running too. He's been scrambling a decent bit. I would flip Williams and Maye in your rankings here. I would start Williams over Maye in pretty much any situation this week.
All righty. Totally fair. I think that's basically where I'm at, and I'm really looking forward to that game between him and Jay Daniels. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So let's stay in that game. Bill Croskey-Merritt, a favorite of the show last week, wasn't even related to the matchups or anything we were talking about, and I just threw some Bill Croskey-Merritt propaganda up on the screen for the good people as Ryan was talking about stuff, just because you gotta know how good this guy is, and I think we are beginning to know. And everybody is about to know, I'm pretty sure, after this week. We'll see how the usage is handled. He got the start last week. The coaches did use the word hot hand in the presser after the game. So you never like to hear that. That makes it feel like, there could be some ambiguity as to how the touches are dispersed going forward. But it makes the most sense to me that the hottest hand in football would continue to just keep getting the ball. And if that's what happens this week, it could be 200 yards. It could be anything. Use your imagination. Just let it run wild here. We've got the Bears worst in adjusted yards before contact per rush per the Fantasy Points data suite here. There they are, 3.09. Really a pretty wide gap between them and the rest of the pack. So adjusted yards before contact per rush, they're also worst in missed tackle rate on running back runs. So they're not getting there. When they do get there, they miss. That's not a good combination. They've allowed over 6 yards per running back rush as a result. So how high can we responsibly, reasonably push Bill Croskey-Merritt? We don't know quite yet what his role will be, and everybody that I have ranked above him, you feel pretty confident could have a 70-80% snap rate, right? So Help me not get too carried away with Bill here because I want to just put him as a top 5 running back.
Yeah, no, I think in like a thinner week, I would put him as a top 5 running back. But yeah, there, as you're kind of saying, there are so many just really strong running backs in really strong spots this week that it's hard. If I were to get him over anybody here, who could I justify? Probably none of them, honestly. Yeah, like the Ashton Genty is also in an amazing spot. Rashad White is
Yep.
in a spot I like a lot. Rico Dowdle, Quinshon Judkins, we're going to talk about. Yeah, all this whole top 15 is just very solid. But yeah, I mean, you're starting Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt this week. Like big ups, congrats on the call, Jacob. You were one of the earliest people on JCM of anybody I know. So yeah, enjoy it.
Even having him over Judkins feels like a stretch, kind of, but I think they're in kind of similar roles, and the offense is way better. We're going to get to the matchup for Judkins. He's obviously playing so well. Let's talk about some receivers then, maybe, and then we'll get back to running backs, because I do think, it's like, yeah, start Bill, right? But a lot of people drafted Bill really late, and maybe their team is great, so it's legitimately a flex discussion for them. So Tetairoa McMillan is somebody that I'm really excited for this week. He gets the Dallas Cowboys. Is it like clearly Bill over him? It is for me.
Yeah, in half PPR, it would be Bill over him for me too.
It's even in full PPR for me. And so I've got T-Mac as a top 10 receiver. So now I'm saying like the running back is clearly stacked this week. If our RB14 is pushing up into this range, Bill over Garrett Wilson against the Broncos.
I mean, it's a stronger like schematic matchup. It's obviously a tough individual matchup against Surtain. That one's close. I might lean Bill though, honestly.
Yeah, Jamar Chase against the Packers.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, I'll go Jamar Chase here. That's
right.
hard. You don't feel amazing about it. It's Packers defense was really great until their last game. Yeah, you might get a little bit of a boost with Flacco, just an overall volume boost. I don't think he fixes all the Bengals problems or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think you can start Bill over Chase.
Okay, we found the line. Deebo Samuel, am I way too high in Deebo? Would you start Bill over Deebo?
No, I would start Deebo. The utilization's just been insane. Ridiculous. As long as T-Mac's been out. Yeah.
Okay, let's then just real quick, like Dowdle, I think is another one who people are going to be having a tough time with. We got some guys who have stepped into larger roles here. Does this look about right? Is it Dowdle over Rashad White over Judkins for you?
Yeah, I would have Dowdle the highest of those three. I feel great about all of them. If I could share my screen here, there's kind of an angle I want to talk through with Dowdle and with Quinshon Judkins if we can get this up. So you guys are looking at, and I'll even zoom in a little bit more for the folks at home, but you guys are looking at the pass rate over expectation report. So what this does is it just tells us what offenses do in neutral situations or based on the game situation, the score, down and distance, all of that controls away all the tendency stuff. So it really just tells you their intention, right? And I should mention that this report is now free at the Fantasy Points data suite. All you need is a free account. All of these weekly reports here, we just made free this week. So if you haven't gone and checked out the data suite yet, now is your chance. We got all this good stuff that you can dive into for free, all these filters. So what I'm doing here is I'm just filtering this report for only plays where these offenses are trailing, because the first level analysis on Rico Dowdle or on Judkins this week would be, well, their teams are underdogs. The Browns quite significant underdogs. Or can we really feel that confident in them, in these guys that don't necessarily catch that many passes, at least in Judkins' case? We can actually, is how I'm looking at this, because these two teams, the Panthers and the Browns, both ranked top three in negative pass rate over expectations. So they're the two top three most run heavy teams while their teams are trailing. So this is just the Browns really committing to the run, even when they're behind. Panthers doing the same, not that surprising with Dave Canales. And if you have Bryce Young, like you kind of need to say, okay, we need the running back to be the engine of the offense, kind of no matter what. Is it the best way to win football games on average for most teams? Probably not. For these two teams, probably /maybe. So yeah, I kind of don't care about the Dowdle and Judkins game script. And I'm just really focused on this is an awesome matchup for Dowdle on the ground. It's arguably an even better matchup for Judkins on the ground. The Steelers have been among the most vulnerable run defenses to man gap concepts this year. So yeah, I think having both of them very high is pretty much required. I don't know. The more I talk myself into it, I might talk myself into even Quinshon Judkins over Bill as well. I know you had him just
kicked off the
there.
podcast.
Yeah, get rid of him. Wouldn't be the first podcast I've been kicked off in the last week or so. The first one may have been Patriots /Drake Maye related. Is all I'll say.
Wow. Yeah, I like the points you make here, that both of these teams are just like, this is the identity, and these are two running backs who can do that, right? Like I've brought this up a few times, and it's felt gross coming out of my mouth that like Judkins is better at navigating like an awful situation than Amari Hampton and Ashton Genty. I've been watching the three of them consecutively, watching all their touches, and him and Dowdle are that kind of a guy where they're just constantly pushing. They're finding the smallest holes and just like getting through there. Their game isn't so much predicated on being able to dance and make somebody miss and create these big plays. Judkins can create big plays, but he also is just like consistently able to churn out 3-4 whenever they need it. And as a result, we're just seeing them. That's their offense, especially with the rookie quarterback that's going to probably keep being their offense. And I think the matchup for each of them this week looks like one where they can keep getting away with it. So yeah, I've got them really, really high. And I think, yeah, maybe Judkins is a safer start than Croskey-Merritt. I just have such a tough time with it because the upside is truly like league winning in this shootout against the Bears. And I don't know if Judkins really gives you that. He doesn't give you receptions, and I doubt Cleveland's going to score more than 2 or 3 touchdowns offensively. But consensus does agree. It does have Judkins ranked higher. So that's what I wanted to check with you, Ryan, make sure I wasn't just on crazy pills over here with Bill. Okay, one more running back question for you, and then we're going to hit our first break. So I think there's a pretty clear tier break after the guys that we've talked about, and it ends with Breece Hall, who I don't think we need to talk about today. Ryan and I each, I think, talk about him quite a bit. I think he's in a good spot. Obviously Denver's defense is tough, but he's in a good spot with the usage, and I think I just feel safer with him than any of the players behind him. But if you disagree, feel free to push into them up. So this range, I do not really know what to do with. It's all the way from like Derrick Henry down to Kenneth Walker and the like Patriots running backs. So at the top, I've got Henry, J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne. I don't necessarily love the stylistic matchup for either of those two guys this week in terms of the defense being able to kind of stop what their run game likes to do. The Jets have been easy to run on at times for sure. Cam Skattebo against the Eagles, not a good spot. Michael Carter, who I really want to get your opinion on, is who I have at 21. Then it's Pollard, Kamara. We don't feel great about them. David Montgomery, I think, could have a good game against the Chiefs. DeAndre Swift, like, I don't even know. Maybe the role will change. Maybe he has a good game. It's a shootout like we've talked about. And then you get into guys that really don't know what the backfield would look like. I think Jaylen Warren will hopefully have most of the role that he had before the Kenneth Gainwell game, but I don't know. And he's facing maybe the most difficult matchup for a running back against the Browns. So let's start with Carter, and then anybody from this range that's interesting. It's really fluid for me, this range. I can move any of these guys anywhere really. But Carter against the Colts, how do you feel about this spot?
Yeah, so I think you might be a touch low, actually. So to me, J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne definitely belong at the top of this range. But I feel better about Carter's workload than Cam Skattebo. Actually didn't get the latest news on Tyrone Tracy. I'm actually not sure if he is active or inactive, or if he has a chance to return this week. But if he does, I would definitely have Carter over Skattebo. And even still, I probably would And the reason for that is not just that Carter's role was awesome, but you can run on the Colts if you want to, right? So in our offensive line, defensive line matchups tool, the Cardinals have been top 5 in terms of generating adjusted yards before contact per attempt. And the Colts have allowed a top 5 rate of adjusted yards before contact per attempt. You can run on the Colts. It is a 7-point spread. That's like the only slight issue, but that's an issue for Cam Scadaboo as well. That's an issue for Derrick Henry as well, who I actually would start Carter over this week for that reason. I think it's just an easier matchup for Carter. We saw him involved in the passing game last week, could be even more so with Amari DiMercato potentially in the doghouse. I feel good about Carter as like my RB 19, RB 20 this week. That's about how I would rank it.
Yeah, it looks like 19 is where you would land. That makes me feel better then. That's basically where I'm at too. I was not worried about the inefficiency last week, and I think it's possible that he actually sees his role grow if the DeMarcado stuff affects his role at all. I think Carter's totally capable of playing on passing downs. But if he doesn't see his role grow, then he could, like Ryan brought up, like the 7-point spread could stand to hurt him if Kyler Murray isn't able to play and the offense struggles and, has a lot of 3 and outs and stuff. It could be just a weird, gross game here. But couldn't the same be said for Derrick Henry? We've already seen several of those games. Couldn't the same be said for the Giants? Obviously, the Titans can, invert on themselves at any time. Like, okay, that makes me feel better because it's like I don't know what to do with any of these players, and I assume a lot of people probably have Carter as like a potential flex option now, and maybe they've got Warren coming back from bye or whatever. They know that he was somebody they were using before, but I think I would put him ahead of all of these players. Do any of these guys stand out as too low to you? The Seattle backs, Jalen Warren?
I want to move Warren higher, but like I hear you in terms of we don't know what the role will look like exactly. I think it will still be pretty good, even if it's closer to like a 60-40 split. The Steelers have had one of the most valuable backfields just by total XFP this year. So I would probably put Warren over Swift. Steelers are still favored in this game. Like all of that stuff should work in his favor. But yeah, like very small nitpicks. I don't feel too strongly about it. I do think Warren is like a very nice, like cheap bot. If you need to inject some variance onto your team right now, buying Jalen Warren or Rico Dowdle is probably a decent idea. Just because those are guys that could be taking over backfields that people are maybe not like fully locked in on as like rest of season bell cows yet.
You think Dowdle could like kind of take over the backfield going forward?
I think he could. Yeah. It's hard to think he couldn't after what he just did last week, after what he's probably going to do this week. Like he very much has been like a spark plug. Dave Canales was very quick to move from like the Miles Sanders stuff to Chuba Hubbard when he realized it was working early last season. Like I would not be that surprised at all if we just see Dowdle bell cow for the rest of the year if he keeps playing like this.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't think people are valuing him that way. So that is an interesting note. All right, we're going to go to break on that. We'll get back with some wide receiver start sits for you.
Maye, touchdown! TJ Watt got him! What a play! Give me 2, give me 5, give me double time!
All right. Before we get to wide receiver start sits, we got a Tootin question, which is definitely important for our audience, and I think Ryan's as well. Would you drop Tootin for Kendre Miller? I say no. I am not deterred at all by the Tootin running blindly right into the defender who's being blocked thing. I know that was not a good look, but Ryan, give us any Tootin thoughts.
So I was like slightly deterred, but here's the thing, and this just kind of broadly goes for any rookie guys. And I know some people have said that Tootin actually made a good mental decision and that the block was messed up and he had a chance to cut to the outside after like that. That's like an argument. It's not like 100% clear to me that he did the wrong thing. But regardless, in terms of just any rookie playing not great early in the season, yeah, like that is always a possibility. We didn't know that before the season that Travion Henderson, that Bashal Tutin were not going to immediately look amazing. But yeah, you can say that about plenty of rookies. Jonathan Taylor looked really bad for the first half of his entire rookie year. Who else? O'Marion Hampton looked awful for his first 2 games, got into a rhythm, more touches, looked amazing for the next 3. Even like Ashton Genty always looked good to me, but these rookies can take time just to adjust to the pace of the NFL, especially if they're not playing like on every down. They're kind of rotating through drives or like half drives or one series. Like it can just take time for these guys to get acclimated. So just because a rookie is currently not playing that great, that doesn't say that much to me for how they will be playing a month from now.
Yep, totally agree. Hold Tutin, not worried about him right now. I think coming out of the week 8 bye, I believe it's week 8, might be week 9, that we'll see role expansion. If we don't at that point, then maybe we can start having this discussion. I don't really know what Kendrick Miller is doing for you, really. You know, are you going to start him right now? Maybe he takes over the backfield. If he does, is it really that valuable? We'll see. He's played well. Then there was one more thing from the chat I wanted to get to before we move on. It's the Dowdle thing. People can't help themselves but be like, why aren't we talking about the fact that he played against Miami? And it's like, we are. Like, that is relevant. But also, that was more yards after contact than any running back has had in a game over the past 10 years in any game, not named Derrick Henry. You know, like, there have been plenty of running backs who have faced bad defenses. This isn't the worst tackling defense of all time. And that's what he did, you know, like, don't take that away from the man. He won them the game and ran for over 200 combined scrimmage yards, you know, like 170 yards after contact. It was an absolutely insane game. And yeah, I bet he's probably going to get more work going forward if I had to guess. Let's talk about some wide
I'll
receivers.
also just quickly say on that, yeah, I think Dowdle is a below average to like sub-mediocre NFL running back talent, but there's not that much of a difference between like running back number 8 and running back number 40 in the NFL. It's very situational. It's very about their usage, and all of that is trending very much in the right direction for Dowdle with what Dave Canales likes to do.
Yeah, we're wasting our time here. Yeah, but the Dolphins suck at tackling. What are you talking about? Yes, I know. I'm not arguing that point. I'm saying there have been so many teams that have sucked at tackling for so many years, and this was a historic outlier type of game. I'm sorry, we just got to move on. I can't stick here. Is this Tetairoa McMillan breakout week? Ryan, do you have anything on the specific matchup fit against the Cowboys for T-Mac?
Man, it better be. I really hope so. Yeah, Cowboys most schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to outside wide receivers. I ripped off like all of their awful, like historically bad defensive stats last week talking about the Jets, but yeah, pretty similar. Also similar, I guess, to this matchup last week. It's still a very zone heavy defense, this Cowboys team. That has historically been bad for Tetairoa McMillan, even going back to in college, but also this year. He's up at 4.1 yards per out run against man, just 1.36 yards per out run against zone. It's a historical Tet McMillan thing. I think it's probably more so a Bryce Young thing, that Bryce Young cannot read zone defenses, which we could have said similar about Justin Fields last week. So all that said, like, Garrett Wilson was fine. Fields was obviously fine last week. I like T-Mac. I am excited. I don't know if I'd have him up at wide receiver 10. Just with that schematic note, Bryce Young can always mess this up, but it could always also be garbage time like we saw, and he could get there anyway. So yeah, I'm of two minds about him. I think he belongs probably below Devontae Adams, below Stephon Diggs, below George Pickens in my rankings. But that's not to say I'm not very excited. And it could easily be the 2 touchdown breakthrough week where he finally gets to his expected fantasy points and turns them into actual ones.
Yeah. So where I'm at with it is it's a simple bet on talent. I don't want to overreact to the schematic stuff. I think the point that Ryan brought up is definitely relevant. This Dallas defense uses a ton of zone coverage. That's why I wanted to ask him what he thought about the fit specifically, is because I do think T-Mac, ideally, you would target in games where he's going to get a lot of man coverage, stuff like that, a defense that doesn't have a great pass rush or whatever, where Bryce can just find him because he's going to crush against man. The reason I have him this high is I like the game environment much better than these guys. I think that, Pickens, I guess, is like a similar type of game environment and his teams apply for more points. So I'd be fine putting him ahead of T-Mac. But I also think that the offense is getting spread so evenly there. And the Carolina cornerbacks are pretty good. But yeah, let's put Pickens ahead of him because we just saw what Jalen Waddle did to them. And it was like the same thing over and over. I think it's a defensive coordinator issue there with Carolina. So maybe they'll be able to just pick on that with Pickens. But anyway, what I meant with game environment is I think that we might see 40 dropbacks from Carolina in this game pretty easily. Whereas I doubt that we'll get that with the Rams or the Patriots. Maybe the Saints surprise us and get a good Spencer Rattler game. This gets going back and forth, and that's fun. Kellen Moore plays fast, so maybe we could get into something like that. But as I look at the rest of these games, like Worthy could get into that kind of a game, but not very many of these other guys have that kind of upside. So if you want, like, who's more likely to get you 15 points, it's almost definitely, I would say, Adams and Diggs over T-Mac.
Mhm.
But I think T-Mac, even, and it sounds backwards to say he has upside when he has 0 touchdowns on the year. We haven't seen the upside. But I think that he could easily get where he's scaling and turning into this huge kind of a game if they're playing from behind. So that's where I'm at with him. I just think he's so good. And if we get him in that kind of a game, also, like, I don't. Did you mention Dallas's pass rush? Like, to me, that's the most important thing here. Is that I think Bryce should be able to make things work a little bit. It should be a little bit more functional here. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Yeah, that's where I landed on T-Mac. But this is good to hear some pushback because I think otherwise people will just get carried away with it if they only listen to me on T-Mac because I'm very excited for him.
Yeah, no, I think everything you just said is fair. Yeah, just game environment based upside. The median definitely higher for Adams and Diggs, in my opinion. But yeah, I like it. Do the Cowboys have like an especially bad pass rush? I mean, we have them at a 44% pressure rate generated this year. I understand they don't really have the personnel necessarily, but it just like by the numbers that I'm looking at, this doesn't like jump out to me as a bad pass rush or like a good pressure matchup for the Panthers. But I'm curious if you have other numbers there.
Yeah, I do feel like that's a bit inflated, like relative to the personnel. I think it'll lower as it goes on. And I don't think that they're very aggressive in getting there, like with the blitz and stuff like that, trying to get there fast. So it just feels like a more neutral matchup for T-Mac and Bryce, but that's kind of what they had last week, and it didn't really work all that well. So yeah, I was just curious what you thought on it. Let's talk about these guys. I've got this cowards tier here where I don't know how to rank them or what to do with these past games. I'm talking about the Chargers and the Eagles, and I just lumped the 5 receivers into one group. So after Courtland Sutton and Michael Pittman, I have Keenan Allen, the highest for the Chargers this week, followed by Ladd McConkey, then Quentin Johnston, and then A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're facing the Giants on Thursday night. Take this any direction. You have any thoughts on these guys or these matchups?
Yeah, so the first thing that jumps out to me is the Chargers. So the Dolphins, as we discussed last week, have been blitzing a ton this year. Second highest blitz rate in the NFL right now, nearly 40%. What that has done for the Chargers this season is Herbert's been pretty good against the blitz, QB7 in yards per attempt, QB3 in accuracy. But it has made him get the ball out a lot quicker, understandably so, given the state of this offensive line. His time to throw comes down to under 2.5 seconds. Deep throw rate falls to under 6%, which is third lowest among all QBs against the blitz and about half his usual rate. And we see this kind of filter through just to the targets per route run for both Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey. In target share against the blitz this year, it starts with Keenan Allen at 29%, Ladd at 24%, and QJ falls down to 20% against the blitz. QJ also pops up on the injury report, limited practice with a hamstring this Wednesday. I don't think that's necessarily a huge deal. But yeah, everything the Dolphins have done is telling me that it is going to funnel the Chargers into the short passing game. So I might even put I would boost Keenan and Ladd. I would boost Keenan over Michael Pittman, where kind of the Cardinals do something kind of similar in terms of just funneling everything underneath. Probably more of a Tyler Warren kind of matchup than a Michael Pittman kind of matchup. I think you could maybe get Keenan over Cortland Sutton. I mean, Sutton's been good against opposing shadows. I'm not really that worried about Sauce. So I think that's like a conversation. But yeah, and then I would probably move QJ. Yeah, it's hard to move them below the Eagles, guys. I just don't feel great about them. It's a good schematic matchup, another man-heavy schematic matchup. Worked for Devontae Smith last week, obviously. Didn't really work for A.J. Brown. Could have worked for him if he didn't slow up on that route. Could have scored that touchdown potentially. So yeah, I mean, I think you have the Eagles about pretty much exactly where they should be. And I like that you have them back to back because yeah, low key, AJ Brown's target share, not that much higher than Devontae Smith's this year. And I can kind of see why after stuff like that, where he's not really taking responsibility for not giving his full effort on that play. If I wish we could pull it up if people don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, there was a play where Brown basically was running in front of his defender. Hurts put the ball like 5 yards in front of him. He slows up. He isn't able to catch it. Probably could have scored had he kept going at full speed.
All right, we're gonna get to our second break here. You guys can go take Ryan's slander, watch that video, just get that hate out online, send it all AJ Brown's way, and hopefully motivate him because he's killing some of my teams. We'll be right back. We're gonna talk through a few more receiver decisions and then some tight end start sit decisions for you.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
I love having Ryan Heath come on the show because I've got, I can look at my rankings compared to consensus and see that I've got Keenan Allen like 4 spots out of consensus, Ladd McConkey 5 spots out of consensus, QJ 5 spots below consensus, and wonder if maybe I'm just a little crazy, right? And then Ryan comes on, he's like, actually, you need to move Keenan and Ladd higher, move QJ down. So that's good. That's good stuff. Just confirmation.
It's honestly annoying for me where I feel like, oh man, like I have this really strong schematic take on this player, and then you pull up the rankings and I'm like, oh, you pretty much already got it here. Like you clearly don't even need me. But yeah, happy to provide confirmation.
Hey, shout out me, top 10 again in Fantasy Pros rankings contest without Ryan's help last week. So yeah, you don't have to take the fall anymore if I suck rest of season. I want to get your thoughts on BTJ. I'm definitely going to talk to you about this game for DFS later, but for like starts the decisions, BTJ and Marvin Harrison Jr. are who I have below the Eagles guys in QJ. And there's definitely like upside, just talent-based upside for them to be higher. Maybe these games have some kind of sneaky shootout potential, especially the Jags versus Seahawks. Did either of these stand out as too low?
They stand out as pretty much right to me. My only take on the Jaguars is like I think this will get better at some point. Like Travis Hunter clearly doesn't know the offense. Like Trevor Lawrence can't execute a hard count. Like there are issues here where the offense is not like running as efficiently as it should, but like they're still moving the ball despite all of that. Like I think eventually in the long term it gets better for BTJ, for Travis Hunter, all these guys. I don't know if it's this week. I don't have a strong take. But yeah, Marvin, him would be pretty 50-50 to me.
You buying the Marvin Harrison Jr. finally freed from Kyler Murray going to have a huge game? You buying that narrative? I kind of am.
I kind of want to. Like, is Josh Dobbs any better of like a processor over the middle of the field than Kyler is? He is taller, right? He is taller. That's, you know what? That's fair. Yeah, keep Marv ahead because Josh Dobbs is taller.
He's taller. I've been told he has a very big brain, so he could be a better processor. I don't know much about Dobbs and his tendencies. Okay, so we've got, I think, a kind of clearly defined top 4 or 5 tight ends. And then we get down to Hunter Henry, who me and Ryan are always way higher than consensus on. And then we get into some really interesting stuff like Darren Waller. I think I maybe am too high on, especially because what he contributes is like the vertical element, and the Chargers are like, no, you don't get to do that. So what do you think about this range? Because like anything from tight end 8 to like tight end 19 is pretty interchangeable for me. Anything stand out here?
Couple things, yeah. So David Njoku, I think you might actually be too low on.
Yeah.
So the Steelers have been an underneath funnel, top 5 in yards per game allowed within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. That helps Njoku with his 5.3 average depth of target. The usage was improved last week, highest route share since week 1. Fannon's lowest route share of the season, below 50%. And Njoku easily leading the team in first read target share, XFP, all of that. And we have Dylan Gabriel throwing over 35% of his passes to tight ends, which the Browns were already pretty high in that stat, but Gabriel is just even higher. Steelers 4th most schedule adjusted allowed to tight ends. The only like counter argument is, well, maybe they're going to blitz a lot. That kind of generally keeps the ball away from tight ends. But I mean, that was true of the Vikings last week also, and it didn't matter. So yeah, I think I like Njoku, definitely over Kyle Pitts. Goddard's tough. I would probably take Njoku over Goddard as well, as good as the utilization's been there. Even Kelsey in this game environment, I probably can't push Njoku over, but it's close and I kind of want to.
Yeah. All right. I think that makes sense. I might have missed it because I was interacting with the chat a little bit. Is there a reason why it's Njoku specifically and not Fannin that would benefit from this matchup?
It's just that the usage has shifted more toward Njoku. Fannin could also certainly benefit from the matchup, though. Yeah, I don't have a specific take on like Fannin being split out more or anything like that. So yeah, it could just as easily be Fannin.
Okay, good. I've got some Fannin, and I need him to keep delivering. Yeah, I mean, I've really liked how they've used him. They move him all over the place. They're trying to get him short opportunities for sure, catch and run opportunities, and I think that makes sense with the QB there. What do you think about Fannin? Would you move him ahead of Mason Taylor or Jawan Johnson? I know people are probably like dropping their Fannin for Taylor. I don't know if I would sign off on that. What do you think?
I'd keep him behind just 47% route participation, man. Like that's just that breaks my brain. Like I understand this is not a normal tight end. Like anytime he's running a route, it's more likely to be designed, a little more likely to be a first read to him. But that just breaks my brain. I can't rank a tight end in the top 16, 17, 15 that is at a 47% route share last week.
You don't like 47% route shares on the Browns with a rookie quarterback?
No, I do not. That does not get me excited.
16.5 points is their implied total in a game with a 38.5 point over under. Yeah, I guess that's fair. All righty. Any other thoughts? AJ Barner, Tonjes, any of these sicko, Theo Johnson, any thoughts on them, or should we move on to some DFS and stuff like that?
I do like Tonjes. I would probably move him up even over Fannin. Yep. I don't know what I'm missing with Jake Tonjes. Like 6 targets a game, 11.5 fantasy points per game without George Kittle. Buccaneers also very much an underneath funnel, 2nd most receiving yards per game allowed within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. That is the 49ers' entire offense right now. But
that makes a lot of sense.
Definitely Jake Tonjes. So yeah, like that game environment, like Tonjes here.
Tonjes or Waller?
Give me Waller.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Good stuff, Ryan. Let's move on from tight ends. And we've got some advanced matchup notes for you guys. So Ryan, of course, has got a bunch of DFS notes. Before I let you get into that, I do want to talk about what's caught my eye, which is this freaking Seattle-Jacksonville game. And so last week it was Darnold and Baker, and that ended up panning out for us. Don't feel quite as confident in Darnold and Trevor, but I wonder what's before we get into what's the roster grade expectation. I would think that 47.5 point over under isn't quite high enough that these guys would be super chalky. Is that where you're at? Do you know?
So in our first ownership run, Trevor was our second highest ownership QB behind only Justin Herbert. He looks like he's going to be like top 3, top 4 around the industry. That can obviously shift.
They're both
So
cheap.
yeah,
a lot of the
and
pieces in this game
that's
are too
part
cheap.
of
Yeah.
it. So yeah, I think there will be some ownership on Trevor. I don't think the total ownership in the game is going to be that crazy though.
Okay, so for me, it's just Darnold over Trevor, like straight up, pretty easily. I guess I get why people would be on Trevor. There's the running, and he looked good in the last week. But all the matchup stuff that I found favors Darnold, and Trevor's matchup stuff actually is why I'm a little bit nervous from going all in on this spot. So the reason I'm intrigued with this spot is that I think it sets up as one where we might see things get aired out. And so far, we haven't seen that. Both of these teams have really leaned on the run and have been in a lot of game environments where you would expect them to lean on the run. They've been playing with leads. The Jaguars are number 1 in opponent pass rate over expectation. So this is, you said, is this one of the free tools, Ryan?
It is, yes.
That's what I thought. Good stuff here. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So just like they have offensive pass rate over expectation, they have defense as well. And so that's something we've been referencing here some. You see the Jaguars here have the highest. Last week, the Chiefs, insane, 19% pass rate over expectations. So offenses have chosen to attack this defense with the passing game. The only games that it hasn't been like really, really high pass rate over expectation was week 1 and week 4. And even those were pretty much neutral. So I think it's possible we might see Seattle take to the air more. And so for Darnold, he's too cheap in DFS, and he's playing really well. But also Jackson Smith and Jigba, like I've wondered all year what it might be like if some of these ridiculous per route, numbers for Njigba get to extrapolate over a real game. I don't know I'm sure Ryan, you've noticed this, but most normal people probably haven't noticed that like his route totals, the total number of routes are really, really low because Seattle's just been leaning on the run. But like last week we saw in a shootout where even it wasn't some extraordinary JSN game, it was just a normal JSN game. It balloons into this huge total, right? And I think that we could see a lot of that, especially when you look at the matchup stuff. So there's that teams choose to pass against the Jaguars. And then there's also the fact that specifically both of these defenses have been much, much better against zone running than man and gap running. And both of these offenses specialize in zone running. And so I wonder if they are like trying to run early and it isn't working very well. And we get where it's just going back and forth a little bit because the passing is working. If this could turn into a really exciting spot. So neither of these defenses use very much man coverage. If you look at the fantasy points data suites coverage matrix here, you've got the Seahawks down here 28th in man coverage. The Jaguars are 26th. They use really pretty similar coverage schemes. And actually, like Seattle's coverage scheme is pretty similar to the Chiefs' coverage scheme that we just saw. That worked. The Jags' offense worked pretty well against. I think that this is relevant that these coverage schemes and these defenses have played well, and I think will continue to play well against most opponents. But against a like good offensive coordinator who like knows, like I think these two are, I think Cliff Kubiak and Liam Comer are near the top of the league right now, and in terms of offensive minds who can draw up and know when to call the correct zone coverage beaters. And so I think that we could see them kind of solve what the other two defenses are doing. A lot of it's going to come down to what the offensive line can do up front. And I'm specifically a little bit worried about the Seahawks. They've had some troubles with, stunts and twists and different ways to confuse offensive lines. And the Jaguars do a lot of that. But Darnold has actually played a lot better against pressure than we've seen in the past. So if they can hold up, I think that these zone defenses can be attacked. So I brought up the Chiefs with the Jaguars. It's a weird defense that doesn't use very much cover 3. Cover 3 is by far the most used zone scheme in the league. The Chiefs don't use it very much. Instead, they use a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 2. The big difference between the Chiefs and the Seahawks defenses, who the Jags face this week, is the Seahawks use a lot of cover 6, and the Chiefs don't use that as much. The Seahawks also don't blitz as much as the Chiefs do. The Chiefs blitz a lot. And so I think that worked in Trevor's favor, where he just had the quick, blitz is coming here. I've got my first read, and that's what I can do. That's Trevor. He can make his first read, and if he doesn't have it, then he runs. This matchup isn't quite like that, and so maybe he'll get confused a little bit more. Again, Trevor is the one who scares me here. But if the two quarterbacks can figure it out and play well, which I think is totally realistic, then it could really turn into a huge shootout. So on the JSN note, 49% target share to JSN when facing either cover 2, cover 4, or cover 6. He has 301 yards within that split. The next highest Seahawk is Elijah Arroyo at 68. Cooper Kupp has 35. And so it's like truly all been funneled on Jackson Smith and Jigbo when facing these coverage types. And that again brings you back to Clint Kubiak. I think he's so good at what he's doing right now, where like if he hasn't been using quite as much motion as in the past, but he is still using it to get tells on what he might be looking at. And like when he can confirm what he is expecting on the back end, him and JSN have just been absolutely cooking. So that's where I'm at. That's a long-winded way of saying like I think this could sneakily become like the highest scoring game this week, even though these are two defenses that have played pretty well. And if that happens, I don't think people are going to be on it really that much. And you could have a game stack that gives you a ton of points that not very many people have.
Okay, I really like this. I had not given honestly that much thought to Darnold before right now. But I am somewhat convinced. Yeah, I do think this game could go off, and I'll give you how I would play it from a DFS perspective if we're going with that assumption. So JSN it is going to have some ownership on him just because he projects so well every week. He's playing so well, of course. You stack him with Darnold, single stack. And so that brings down your ownership some. I do not think Darnold's going to be popular. And then you can also, just because it's a game environment bet, you want a bring back from the Jaguar side. This is a slate where there's not really a lot of value. It's kind of hard to fit everything you need to. Travis Hunter is pretty interesting to me this
That's
week.
where I landed.
Okay. So, and he's, I don't remember exactly what his price is. It's much cheaper than most wide receivers. It's 4,700 Travis Hunter this week. Seahawks, the exact same note that we had for Emeka Egbuka last week. Seahawks near the top of the league in cover 4 and cover 6. Against those two shells, Travis Hunter leads the team in receptions, and he has nearly 3 times the receiving yards of any other Jaguars receiver. Literally 116 of his 182 total receiving yards on the year, which is 64% of his yards on only 25% of his routes, coming against those two shells that the Seahawks play a lot of. I don't have like as convincing of a reason for that. As I did for like Egbuka last week, where it was, Baker is just a dog against cover 4 and he will take the downfield shots against it. I don't necessarily think Trevor will do that as much as Baker, but Hunter's interesting. Like against cover 6, getting him on these kind of shorter routes on the perimeter where he can make plays happen. He's had some really good coach speak from Liam Cohen this week. He was up at an 88% route share in the second half with Brenton Strange out in the last game. Could be playing even more offense. It's pretty interesting to me to get Hunter in there low owned under 5K.
I love it. All right. So yeah, Ryan was all over the Emeka Egbuka Baker stack last week. Ryan, talk to us about the week 6 matchup. And then while you're here, feel free to get into your notes on Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford. Definitely an interesting week at quarterback.
Yeah, so my Baker Mayfield / Emeka Egbuka note is very weirdly almost the exact same as last week, where it is the Seahawks and the 49ers that are top 2 or top 3 in the NFL in cover 4 and cover 6 rate. So a very similar kind of case for Mayfield and Egbuka here, where Mayfield has just been so aggressive against these looks. Egbuka has let him take the downfield shots against them. There is going to be some more ownership on Mayfield and Egbuka this week, just because they're playing so well. It's more of like an on its face, really exciting game environment against the 49ers this week. So I don't think they're like as amazing of a play as they were last week, but I'm still going to have exposure. Mayfield, Igbuka. You have a lot of bring back options in that game. As I was mentioning, like Tonjes, obviously Christian McCaffrey. If Jawan Jennings plays, he's very strong. He's under 5K as well. One potential place to get value. So like that stack quite a bit. My thing on Herbert is everything we talked about earlier in the show, where the Dolphins' tendencies, all of their blitzing is like encouraging the Chargers to throw short. That makes me a little bit nervous about Herbert, only from a DFS perspective. Obviously, like great start, great on paper matchup and everything for your seasonal leagues. Don't sit Justin Herbert. But from an upside perspective, like if it's not going to be pushing the game environment with these downfield shots and TDs to Quentin Johnston, I don't know if I want to play Justin Herbert as almost definitely one of the two highest owned QBs on the slate. It's him, Drake May, and Trevor Lawrence projecting for the most ownership right now. So I think just going with like Keenan Allen alone, saying I'm going to take the PPR scam here and not bother with Herbert in most of my lineups is how I'm going to play it there, just because there are so many like similarly priced QBs with similarly really good upside. Baker is one of them. Another one of them is Dak Prescott. In that nutso game environment that we've been talking about for Tet McMillan. Same thing with Dak, and it's even a good schematic matchup. Panthers play a ton of cover 3. Dak has shredded cover 3 this year. QB3 in fantasy points per drop back against it. 18% deep throw rate against cover 3. That is the highest in the NFL. He's done it with Jake Ferguson and with George Pickens since CeeDee Lamb has been out. I think it's just clearly you stick with those two in the stack if Lamb doesn't play, which I'm assuming he won't. Gets a little trickier if he does. But yeah, that's like an absurdly high upside spot that will not have nearly enough ownership on it. And I guess my final thing in terms of like QBs that will not be owned enough that have really high upside, no one's going to play Matthew Stafford against this Ravens defense that just had, I think it was 58% of their salary cap inactive last week. Most of these guys still on the injury report. They've been playing a lot more single high this year. Last week, they went to a lot more cover 3. Both of those are insane for Puka Nacua. Puka and Devontae Adams have had very wide single high versus 2 high splits this year, where Puka far and away the most targeted against single high, including cover 3. Adams actually leads the team in target share against 2 high looks. It's a single high matchup this week. Puka will be very highly owned. Stafford will not. So yeah, just throwing him into a stack there to get more unique is awesome. And yeah, that's all my QB stuff. I guess a final quick note is I think the Titans pass catchers are in play this week. Both Calvin Ridley and Elike Manor. It's another cover 3 heavy matchup with the Raiders. Ridley has been better against cover 3 than Manor this year. But from talking to some of our charters at Fantasy Points Data, actually shout out to our charter, Zane Donani, total genius. He's great with the data, great with watching the games, just total ball knower. Helps me out a lot with research and stuff like this. Basically, what the Titans have been doing is against cover 3, they've been running a lot of these 3-by-1 formations with 3 receivers on one side of the field and 1 receiver on the other side. Not something teams usually do against cover 3, but the Titans have been. And it's almost always been Manor isolated by himself. And whenever he is, it's very likely they throw to him, just because that's a much more favorable like matchup to be isolated like that as a receiver. That explains like some of the Manor targets production that have come even a little earlier than people expected. So I think he's interesting as like a cheap dart throw. Calvin Ridley always in play as like a boomer bust GPP guy. He's like Chris Olave is going to be one of the chalkiest receivers on the slate. He's like the same price as Ridley. He has 2 games over 20 fantasy points in the last 2 years. Ridley has 4. He's at over 17 DraftKings fantasy points in the top 50% of his games. Awful like seasonal start, but Ridley is a DFS tournament play guy you should always be thinking about.
You could just say that Ridley's a good play. You didn't have to break my heart with that Olave stat, dude. I feel like just catching strays for no reason. It's rough. I don't understand it. Like, he's such a good player. I swear he is. All right, yeah, that was a lot of really good stuff. A lot of stuff that'll help people, I think, with their quarterback set decisions and even some of the tougher wide receiver start decisions. Let's see where I've got Iomanner in relation to some of these other receivers. I've got just one note, and then we'll end on this Iomanner thing. On the Matt Stafford note that you brought up, you didn't think that Stafford would be all that popular? Do you think that Kyren Williams will be?
Yeah, Williams is going to have some ownership. It will be less than Puka Nacua. I think Puka is going to be either the most popular or the second most popular player on the slate behind Christian McCaffrey, as he probably should be. So Kyren does kind of work as leverage. I honestly would maybe want like one of Puka or Kyren in every lineup, just depending how you think this game goes. But yeah, Stafford will not be popular. He never is. It's really weird.
The reason I brought Kyren up is I just noticed the Ravens are way, way worse against man gap runs, which is what the Rams have been doing with Kyren. 6 yards per carry allowed on man gap runs compared to 3.3 yards per carry versus zone runs. And then obviously we saw the Corum fumble last week and 90% snap rate for Kyren. So feels like a great spot for him. Okay, here's what I've got. Iomanner, wide receiver 44, ahead of Travis Hunter and Troy Franklin, behind Josh Downs. I'm fine moving him, or Keon Coleman down. I'm fine moving Cooper Kupp down. How you feeling about that range?
Yeah, just getting Iomanner and Hunter up here. Probably even over down. Like, okay, who runs more routes this week, Jacob? Josh Downs or Travis Hunter? I actually feel pretty good that it's Travis Hunter.
I noticed that Travis Hunter's route totals, not like his route rate, is 27, 27, 27, 23, 26. It's been like, I wonder if there's literally a pitch count or something. And so I don't know, like, if the game got into a more back and forth, high paced game, if he would even benefit or not, I don't know. It's possible. That could just be randomness, right? But yeah, I'll guess that Travis Hunter probably does. The Colts could easily go super run heavy in this game. Mooney.
Is he like questionable, Mooney? I actually, it's the Monday night game. I'm not
it's hard
on the injury notes for those,
so he's a little bit behind. What about Trey Tucker, Rashid Shaheed? I keep ending up a little bit higher on Tucker. Kendrick Bourne, some of these weird ones. What about them compared to Iomanner?
I think I like Bourne. Assuming Jawan Jennings is out, I like Bourne more than Iomanner.
Yeah.
I don't think Bourne's really relevant if Jennings is in. But yeah, I think having Bourne high is good. I think, yeah, same with Tucker. Honestly, I had some notes somewhere about him. Let's see here. Yeah, Titans play a lot of cover 4. That has actually helped both Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers this year somewhat. So I like Tucker here. Yeah, I think we about found it for Iomanner.
All right. Important stuff. Good stuff as always, Ryan. Thank you so much. Before we get out of here, is there anything you want to share with the Beyond the Box Score audience?
Yeah, so as we mentioned a couple times throughout the show, we have a bunch of new free tables over at the Fantasy Points Data Suite. It's the weekly tables, pass rate over expectation, snap shares, and route shares on a weekly basis are now free. We've got a bunch of the filters also available there, as we showed off earlier. So data.fantasypoints.com. You only need a free account to get into that, into those free tables. If you end up wanting to get full access to the data suite, get into the coverage data, everything we talk about on this show, you can use promo code matchups15. We are running our October sale also over at Fantasy Points. That code matchups15 should apply on top of any like standard discount for any package at Fantasy Points right now. So yeah, go over there, take advantage of that. And yeah, great show. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you. Check it out. Fantasy Points right there. It's good stuff. I am not employed by Fantasy Points. Obviously, I am FFT loyal through and through, but I just love Fantasy Points. I'm a fan. I am truly just a fan. Thank you, Ryan, for being here. Go check out the data suite for sure if you haven't. It's a lot of fun, and so it's cool that we've got some free ways for y'all to play around with it this week. Thank you to all of you for being here and chatting. Please like the video. Please hype us up. All the good stuff to get more eyes on the good work of Mr. Ryan Heath. Take it easy, y'all. Thanks.